Hello and welcome everyone to the channel. In this Highfleet video, I will be giving a guide about sensors. The subject that will be covered are radar, Elint, jammer, and IRST. I will go through in detail what it does, how it works, and some lesser known quirks and features about these items. I will add timestamps at the description below, so feel free to skip ahead to the topics that you are interested in. First, let's talk about radar. As of the current version of this game, 1.16, there are two main types of radar: search radar and fire control radar, also known as FCR. Each of these radar groups has a premium and budget version. For the search radar, there is the MR700 and the MR500. It has a maximum range of 750 kilometers and 500 kilometers respectively. Its main purpose is to serve as a quote-unquote early warning detection system. Its usefulness is very much questionable. However, for the purpose of gameplay, it is used as a trinket for the enemy fleet. This allows you to detect them easier. In the hands of the skillful, it can also be used as a tool for diversionary tactics, but that's a topic for another matter. Next, we have the fire control radar. There is the MR12 and the MR2M. It has a maximum scan range of 400 kilometers and 250 kilometers respectively. It has a significantly shorter range than its search radar counterpart. However, its main feature is its tracking and guidance ability. Tracking provides a real-time solution to a detected target's active location and vector, while guidance allows you to use the R9 Sprint anti-air missile. The number of missiles you can use is equivalent to the number of guidance available on the ship. When you begin a campaign, you will see the radar equipment to the top left-hand corner of your screen. For those who did not read the manual, I will highlight the name of each gadget. The first thing that you will see is the radar output. It may display detected targets within range. These targets will be marked as a line on the output, giving you an approximate distance and bearing to target. Do note that, unlike the rest of the radar lineup, the age of the radar output is not the maximum range of the MR700 radar. This age is approximately 650 kilometers. It doesn't mean that the radar range is 650 kilometers. It just means that you can acquire radar contacts before seeing it on the radar output. Speaking about radar contacts, both friendly and hostile contacts will appear on the radar output. However, whenever you first encounter a new hostile contact, the game will pause and a sound cue will play. As such,
attention, new target on the radar.
The contact indicator will stay lit and blinking until it has moved out of range or it is eliminated. While we are on the topic of contacts, there are 3 rules the game must abide by in order to detect a target. Number 1, the target must be within radar range. Number 2, the radar user must be within the target's radar detection signature range, also known as RD sign. Number 3, the target must not be landed. Of course, there is an exception that is caused by a jammer, but we will address it later. Next, we have the sweep frequency. It is essentially 2 fancy power buttons. The one on top with the number 1 means the radar will perform a 360-degree sweep before turning off, while the infinite sign means it will turn on and sweep indefinitely until instructed to do so otherwise. And then we have the sector search. When it is switched on, it limits the angle of the radar to a 60-degree arc. It does not affect the range whatsoever, but it does increase the interval of the sector sweep by 6 folds. Turning the bearing knob will turn the radar sector to your desired direction. This function is especially useful when behind enemy lines. Proper use of sector search can prevent your radar from being detected by the enemies. And lastly, we have ground toggle. Its sole purpose is to allow you to detect hidden cities. Now let's look at the main screen. When the radar is active, you will see this radar grid. This grid is a representation of your radar range. However, it is not accurate. As you can see, besides the MR700, which has a radar range much further than the grid, every other radar has a range slightly shorter than that of the grid. The yellow circle indicates the tracking range of the fleet. Without a fire control radar, the tracking range is equal to the fleet's visual range. This range is 100 km during the day and 75 km at night. Note that ground targets can only be acquired visually. When dispatching a detachment, it will display its radar and tracking range with these yellow circles. These indicators are accurate. Also, when a ship lands, its radar range is reduced to a maximum of 350 kilometers. This applies to all but the MR2M radar. Lastly, so long as you are tracking a target, you can guide a missile directly towards it. However, you must maintain this tracking. Breaking tracking will break guidance, and it will not reacquire guidance after launch. Do note that missile carriers do not require a fire control radar in order to guide ballistic missiles. When customizing ships, ship parts can obscure sight range of all sensory equipment. Hull parts can reduce equipment efficiency by up to 50%, while solid parts may totally inhibit equipment's functionality. Next subject, we have Elint. Elint stands for Electronic Intelligence. It is a device specially made to detect radar emissions. There are two Elint available in this game, the MP404 and the MP21. Despite having a range display on the Elint's datasheet, it is not how it functions. Think of it as a sensitivity rating. For the MP404, 1,500 kilometers is the distance of which it will detect the most powerful radar, the MR700. This translates to a sensitivity of 2, and likewise the MP21 has a sensitivity of 1.4. Like the radar, when an Elint is being obstructed, its rating will also be reduced. In this example, the rating is reduced to 1,135 kilometers. This translates to an Elint sensitivity of roughly 1.5. Therefore, it is vital to have an Elint rating greater than 750 kilometers. Otherwise, you would have been in radar range when the Elint warning triggers. Here is the tabulated data for the range of which Elints will detect the respective radars. Notice in the table that it is possible to be within radar range without having prior warning from an Elint. Therefore, It is strongly advised to acquire intel or employ ships that has low RD signature with Elint to scout ahead, like the Skylark or the Mockingbird if you have unlocked it. During gameplay, you will see a toy pretend phone gizmo on the top of your screen when selecting a squad equipped with Elint. The outer circle with numbers indicate the direction of which radar emission is detected. In this illustration, a contact has been identified towards the 0-degree bearing of the squad, with an arrow of 15 degrees. We can also see an inner indicator consists of 5 bars, breaking down the intensity of the radar into its respective region, giving you an estimate of how close you are before entering radar detection range. In this case, we are using a MP404 and the enemy is using the MR500 radar. With this information, we know we can detect the enemy radar within 1000 kilometers. The bars will progressively lit up until we are within radar range. From this illustration, we can see that we are around 700 to 800 kilometers away from the enemy. Next, we have jammer. We only have the one jammer in this game, and it is the MP100 Lagoon. As the name suggests, the purpose of this device is to obstruct functionality of radar-related equipment. This includes radar, Elint, and radar modules on radar-guided missiles. It does so by oversaturating radar emissions in the area, making it difficult for radar equipment to pinpoint your exact location. It is very important to make this clear distinction. This device do not make you invisible. In fact, quite the contrary. It will reduce the effectiveness of radar in its active zone, but it does not stop it from functioning. Like a radar, it generates radar emissions in excessive amounts. Its radar emission range is 4,000 kilometers and it stacks upon multiple jammers. Because of this, it can be detected by Elint units up to 8,000 kilometers away per jammer unit. On the radar, you will see a trail of noise streaming from the jammer source. Your capability to acquire radar contacts within this noise region is half. Or you can look at it in this different angle. The radar signature of all targets in this region is half. This applies to missiles too. A radar-guided missile have an inbuilt radar with a range of 80 kilometers. This will create a zone that is 100 kilometers wide that the missile will sweep through. Slower ships might not be able to escape this zone and risk being hit. When the missile is jammed, this zone is reduced to roughly 25 kilometers wide, giving slower ship a better chance to evade the missile. Anti-radar emission missiles, however, will have its efficiency increased by 5 times when homing into a ship emitting jamming signal. This range increase is from 100 kilometers to 500 kilometers. Nuclear missiles will also generate noise upon detonation within the region. And finally, we have the IRST. There is only one IRST available in this game, and it is the IRS-1 MARS. IRST stands for Infrared Search and Track. It has a maximum range of 300 kilometers. It detects IR emission generated by heat source such as engines and rockets. The more engine a ship has, the larger the emissions. While in game, you will find the IR scanner to the bottom left of your screen. The spike on the IR scanner indicates the proximity and direction of a contact. Turning the knob will turn the sector on the IR scanner as well as the detail screen, allowing you to pinpoint the exact direction of the source. Finally, the contact indicator will function similarly to the radar's contact indicator. Here is the tabulated data for IR emissions. And one final tip, the radar signature for missiles and planes is also 150 kilometers. Thank you for watching, and I hope this guide is useful. Have a good day and goodbye.